this process of a 1031 exchange, we're hearing that it's very detailed. There's certain steps you have to go through. That's where a qualified intermediary comes into play. And people want to do this so that they can save or defer taxes to be able to use for their investments. Um, Being in the business, are there any particular horror stories that you know of where people maybe went about this the wrong way?
Number one is a lot of times people will close on a property without having an exchange set up. They know about, so they have these deadlines, from the closing, how we have 45 calendar days to identify, 180 days to close. So sometimes they think that they have 45 days to get this set up after the closing of the sale. So, those are the calls we get in our office where it's too late to do an exchange. Some of the other pitfalls or issues that come up with an exchange typically have to do with the 45-day identification, right? Because here's the thing, the closing of the sale is going to start the clock ticking. So an exchanger has 45 calendar days to identify what they're going to purchase. And they can identify more than one property. The rule that's used most often is the 3-property rule. And so even if they're planning on only buying one, but of course they can buy several properties in an exchange, after they get past the 45th day, they cannot change what they identified. They must purchase something on that list. So if something happens to those properties, bad inspection, seller backs out, and they don't have another property identified that's still available, then they're out of luck. The exchange fails. So one of my tips is that, when you have someone that is, or you're an exchanger yourself, and you have a closing coming up, let's say it's 2 weeks from today, there's nothing stopping you from getting into contract on the property you're buying, right? You just want to make sure to keep it that simple forward exchange, right? Remember the reverse with all the parking? But to keep it the forward exchange, you just have to make sure that that replacement property closes after the sale property. So a lot of our exchangers that we work with often, they usually have a contract on the sale and the purchase right from the beginning. So that's one of the biggest obstacles is the 45-day deadline, especially in the market that we've had recently where it's a seller's market and properties are going so quickly. Well, a lot of times if they like a property, then someone else does, right? So definitely want to kind of move along on trying to find properties and get out there and look at what's on the market even before the sale property closes. The other kind of pitfall or something to look out for now is construction. One of the main reasons why someone wants to do a 1031 exchange is they want to sell an older property because, look, I have rental properties too. As they get older and they age, you need more maintenance and maybe they're not as easy to rent, or I can't get a higher rent for it as I could in a brand new home. And so one of the motivations is to sell an older property and buy a new property. And so as we all may be aware right now, construction's taking a longer time than usual. So some of our exchangers, unfortunately, had identified properties that were new construction, and it got past the 180-day deadlines because there's no extending the 45 and the 180-day deadline, right? The only time you get an extension when you have a federally declared disaster. So obviously we don't want that to happen, like a hurricane or a fire, or so we definitely on those new constructions, they may think of maybe going under contract first on the new construction and then later selling their relinquished property, or sorry, the property that's being sold we refer to as the relinquished property.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah.
Okay.
Those are
Um,
some of the things that kind of come up. And usually if an exchange fails, I will say it has something to do with that 45-day deadline. So whatever we can do to get ahead of that, then that's better, obviously.